you, stream viewers. We praise God for you. We pray that we have been a blessing unto you.
Amen.
We pray that we've said something to help you have a closer relationship with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. If you're looking for a church home or you're just visiting Philadelphia, we welcome you to come over here to the Erie Avenue Baptist Church at 540 West Erie Avenue in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where everybody is somebody. Christ is the head. Come on over here where the table is spread.
Thank you.
And the feast of the Lord is going on. Amen, somebody.
Amen.
Amen. If you turn your Bibles back to the first John, the second chapter, and go down to the 17th verse. In that 17th verse it says, "And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of God abideth forever." Amen. Sound like Jesus is calling. Amen. But he that doeth the will of God abideth forever.
Thank you, Lord.
We thank God for his blessed word, and we pray that he bless the hearts of those that heard it. And if I can today, I want to talk from the subject, knowing God's will.
My Lord.
Knowing God's will. As we consider the Sunday school lesson, a very challenging lesson. A lesson that there was no way to study it without considering our own lives. I hope somebody understands what I'm saying. In other words, it made us take a retrospective look at ourselves and ask ourselves, Lord, am I living in your will? Lord, is my external lined up with my internal? Let me say that another way. Is what's on the inside illuminating on the outside, that people see a manifestation of you in my life. You see, when I was a young man, I seemed to continually wrestle with knowing God's will for my life. You know, when you come in and you give your life to God, and you start asking God, well, Lord, what are you expecting of me? And how should I live my life? And then the Lord called you to ministry. And as he called me to ministry, now I really want to know, what's your will for my life, Lord? I wanted more than anything to follow the plan that God had already put in place for me. Interestingly, now that I'm older, currently I'm 32, I'm 62 years old, 32 years later, I still wrestle with doing his will in my life. But I've come to learn that this is not just something that a young person does early in his life, but it's a lifelong pursuit in order to stay in the exact center of the plan of God. In other words, I often say that each day we should be a little bit more mature than we were the day before. I said it just a few minutes ago that God is constantly pruning our lives. You know, when you prune, you're taking away the stuff that can hinder, you're taking away the dead. And so in its place is growth. And so every day I'm seeking God more. Every day I want to know more. But most of all, every day I want to make sure that I'm walking in the center of this plan for my life. Because he has a plan for you, as he has a plan for me. Each one of us was designed uniquely for his purpose. And so then how can we know God's plan for our lives? Over the past 30 years that I've been in ministry, I've discovered 8 vital keys to knowing God's will for our lives. And here they are. First of all, we have to walk with God. You see, for starters, if you are interested in knowing God's plan for your life, then you have to learn how to walk with God. You need to develop a relationship with him. Christianity is all about relationship rather than just religion. See, some people look at it as religion, but it's really about a relationship. Our relationship with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, in other words, is personal. Having a personal relationship with him because he just loved us so. And he looked beyond all our faults and saw our needs. I don't know about y'all. Maybe y'all might be in a better situation than I am, But I thank God that he looked down upon me and had mercy. I don't know about y'all, but I needed mercy to step in.
Yeah.
I needed to his grace to just just encompass me and take hold of me and captivate me and put me in the ark of his safety. I'm just saying, I know what I needed. And so I'm thankful. And so you must cultivate your relationship with God. Well, how can I cultivate my relationship with God? Just like if I do with my wife, I have to spend time with them. Yeah. I have to be able to communicate with them. In other words, I cultivate my life with God as I walk with him through prayer, as I walk through him through meditation, as I walk through him even in my sleep. I don't know about y'all, but my wife can tell you, I wake up praising God sometimes. Sometimes in the midst of nightmares, I wake up saying, but you, Lord. Anybody ever call on Jesus in the midnight hour? Talking about cultivating a relationship with God. And so to cultivate a relationship with God, you must seek to know him with all that's in you and not just seek to know about him. See, some folks just want to know about him. I don't just want to know about him. I want to know him for myself.
Thank you, Lord.
I want to seek him with all that's in me. And so you will cultivate that relationship best by spending time in his word. Taking that time to digest that word, to allow him to open it up to your mind, and taking time for prayer, and taking every opportunity you can to be involved in the church and small group and Bible study opportunities, to be able to take time and to share with somebody else about the goodness of God. When you seek these disciplines in your life, God will begin the first steps to revealing his plan. See, it's in spending time that his plan is revealed to you. And the more time you spend with him, the clearer the plan becomes. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. So I'm just going to lean on him and just trust him fully. Secondly, I don't only want to walk with him, but you need to surrender your will to God's will. Many times when we say we are seeking God's will, what we really want to say to God is this. Okay, God, here's what I'm planning to do. Now, I need you to rubber stamp this. Y'all know what I'm saying? A lot of times we talk to God, we tell God what we want him to do, instead of asking God what would he have us to do. We want God to rubber stamp our plan. Am I right about that? I know I got some witnesses in the house. I'm susceptible to it as well. You know, there's times I say, well, God, this is what I would like to do. But Lord, please, is it your will for me? I must tell you that this is not really effective in finding his real truth. And when you constantly asking God, Lord, I want to do this. Lord, I need you to do that. You know, and God is saying, but I need you to do something.
All right. Help us, Lord.
I need you to seek me more. I need you to follow me more. I need you to know me more. I need you to do something. And I understand he said he gave us the desires of our hearts, but it also needs to be lined up in his will. Before God will begin to reveal his will to you, you must be committed to doing whatever it is that he desires for you to do. God will likely be slow to show you his plan if he knows you will likely not do that plan anyway. You know, some folks say, I want to do it. You know, mother like to say, you know, I'm behind too many vows. You know, we always make vows. Then we turn around and we break the vow. You know, but when you look at your life, you know, y'all look at it, but you know, have you ever been in that place where you say, God, if you do this, I will do this. And God will work it out for you. And you go right back to doing what you told God that you won't do no more. I got any witnesses in the house? You know, Lord, I really want to spend more time with you, Lord. I'm going to commit 1 hour. Now watch this. 1 hour a week to pray. And I can't even commit that 1 hour. It's like the disciples. Remember the disciples? he took them with him, and he said he left 8 by the gate, and he took 3 and went a little further. And then he left them and he went a little further.
Yes, he did.
Then he asked them if they would just pray with him for 1 hour. And he went off and he prayed.
Oh, yeah.
Now this, you know, we talk about this all the time. This is what I noticed in this. Watch this. I'm gonna show you something here. But now when he went, he came back. They had fell asleep.
Yeah.
See, they said, "I'm with you, Lord. You know,
Yeah.
I got you, Lord."
I know.
But so now he said, "Well, hold it," because he understood that the enemy coming in, the enemy going to do all kinds of things to stifle you. And so he said, "Well, can y'all not watch and pray with me for 1 hour?" And so it said he went back. Now watch this, mother. This is the 2nd hour he done prayed.
Yeah.
He done prayed 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And they still couldn't get by that. So when he came back again, and he seen them, he said, "Y'all go ahead and sleep." And he went back and prayed yet another hour. Till the angels came and ministered to him. And then he came and he told them, y'all, come on now. The time is at hand. And so, can we commit ourselves to even that 1 hour? You know, I like it. You know, like last week, you know, last week out we were so tired. Not this Friday, but like last Friday, we were so tired. And I actually forgot it was Friday. I forgot. I'm gonna show you what. Remember we talked about, you know, not just teaching it but living it. And Sister Hester, she was upstairs. She was getting ready to change her clothes. She forgot it was Friday too. She was getting ready to put her night clothes on. And Faith said, "Y'all know we got to get ready to go to church." I said, "What?" She said, "It's Friday night." She knows that on Friday night at 7 o'clock we are in here for 1 hour praying to God.
Thank you, Lord.
And so, out of the mouth of a baby. I was tired. I forgot it was Friday. But she reminded me because she knows that's our habit.
Yeah.
It become habitual. And so when you set that time aside, we start exploring that Sunday school lesson and start tearing it down.
Yeah.
You know, I start looking at what I'm going to preach. You know that there's time that is set aside. Everyone should have time throughout every day to set aside. We talk about 1 hour a week, but I'm talking about setting time aside every day. Spending time with God.
Yeah.
Romans 12:1 says, "I beseech you, therefore, brother, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God."
Yeah.
And the only way that you can do that is by surrendering your will to the will of God. You see, Jesus.
Thank you, Lord.
Jesus was willing to die for us.
Oh, yeah.
And so shouldn't we be willing to live for him?
Thank you, Lord.
When we surrender to him, that is when he really began to direct our steps. But it takes full surrender. All to Jesus. I surrender.
Oh, yeah.
All to him I freely give. Then the third vital key is to obey what you already know to be God's will. That's heavy all by itself. Obey what you already know to be God's will. Many people seem to want to know what God's plan is for their lives, but they overlook the fact that 98% of his will is already delineated carefully through his word.
Yeah.
God is very clear about many, many aspects of his will. For instance, it is clearly his plan that we abstain from sexual immorality.
Well,
now, if we read the previous verses 15 and 16, he starts talking about lust of the eyes. He talks about the things that we are to refrain from in order to abide in his will.
Thank you.
We live in a time where even in the church, we talked about, people are going to the churches where it's okay to drink. It's okay to cuss. But he said, let no profane babblings come out of your mouth. He said, be ye sober-minded. I'm going to talk about that later, but he said, be sober-minded.
Yeah.
Because, see, we got to be clear-minded.
Thank you, Lord.
You know, we make a vow when we do the church covenant. We say, I will refrain from the sale and use of intoxicating drink as a beverage. But yet we will Somebody know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But he tells us that we ought to be in the world, but not of the world. Be conformed not to the things of the world, but be conformed to the very will of God.
Thank you, Lord.
And so he's very clear in his word. Even in Romans 16:6, he says, but now is made manifest, and by the scriptures of the prophets, according to the commandment of heaven, make known to all nations for the obedience of faith.
Thank you.
My obedience comes in fulfilling the will of God.
Yes.
And trying to, what that word told me to do, I'm trying to live that word. Trying to live that word to my best of my ability. That don't mean I'm not going to fall short sometimes, but I'm trying to live to the best of my ability, knowing that even when I fall short, he will give me direction on how to rectify my shortness. Now, well, all of us are susceptible. You know, but he tells us that we got to be careful. Because the reality is, the closer you try to get to God, the more the devil desires to shift you like me. Now, Peter said it like this. He said, be sober and be vigilant. In other words, be clear-minded and be watchful. Because your adversary, the devil, he walketh about seeking whom he may devour. His desire is to kill, steal, and destroy. And if he can take your joy, if he can kill your joy, if he could destroy your joy, he's happy. But the thing that we know is that the joy that we have, it's not his to take, because it's not even ours. The joy that we have, the Lord gave it to us. And only the Lord can take it away. And so if we do not obey the things that God has shown us clearly to be his will, why would we think that he will reveal any further information regarding his plan for our lives? That's why he said, I want to give it to you in part, because you can't even.
Thank you, Lord.
Then he tells you, be faithful over, and I'll make you rule over. And so he's saying that there's some stuff that we got to do. He's like, if you ain't, it's like the talents. If y'all know the story of the talents. One did what he had to do, he multiplied. Another one, he buried his, he tried to keep. And he said, well, you that buried yours, you go get that. And you give it to the one who uses it. In other words, he said, if you ain't going to use the gifts that I gave you, I'm going to take them back.
Thank you, Lord.
He said, but if you use them, he said, look, I'll keep on adding.
So.
I'll keep on multiplying.
Thank you, Lord.
I'll keep on building you up even more and using you even more. And so it's important that in the midst of all of this, that we clearly walk into the will of God. Because if we do not obey the things that God has shown us clearly, we're not going to do the things that he has. And so obedience is an important first step.
Thank you, Lord.
That's why, as I said earlier, he said, I beseech you, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you do what? Present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable. And then he said, it's your reasonable service. And then he said, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. He just keep repeating this to me. I don't know why he kept giving me that and let me know that I need you to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you might prove, that I might prove what is good and acceptable and in the perfect will of God. And then the fourth key, you got to seek godly input. See, some folk take stuff from any old Bible. But you got to make sure that you're getting godly input. Yes. One key component to finding God's will is to seek the input of godly advisors in your life. You got to surround yourself with other people that are rooted in the Word of God. In other words, you want to be people that can sow into your life. Nothing that's going to hinder. Because you got some folk, they just negative. You ever had negative Nancy? Or negative Ned, whichever, Every time you talk to them, they got like a woe is me spirit. Everything wrong with everything and everybody. Nah, that's not the kind of energy I want around me. I don't know about y'all, but I need some positive energy around me. I want some folk that I can call on As you said, Mother, I can ask them if I don't understand something. They can help give me clarity. Or if I'm dealing with a situation, don't you know that there's no situation that you can deal with that somebody else haven't already dealt with?
Thank you, Lord.
You ever talk, it makes you think that when we were children, and I hear children say that, I'm reminded that I once was young, but now I'm old. But yet I have seen the righteous forsaken, the seed, baby for bread. But young people have ways that, well, y'all experience life. I need to experience for myself.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I used to think like that. But let me ask you a question. If I know that there's a hole there, and I almost fell in it, you don't want me to tell you about that hole? And there's some young people that say, no, let me find out about that hole on my own. And I'm like, but if I know there's some dangers that I've already experienced, even with our children, we don't want our children to go through the same hardships that we have. And even that they'll say, well, let me experience for myself. But the word tells me there's some things I don't have to experience for myself. There's some things that I could look at and say, no, okay, now, hey, I don't want that to happen to me. But we lived in a time where let me do me.
That's right.
But if doing you gonna hurt you,
help us, Lord.
I have a responsibility to tell you, because he said, if you see your brother and no, you who are spiritual, restore, lest you both fall. See, so we have a responsibility of holding each other up, because he said, if I see you, sway in one way or the other, I don't say nothing. We'll say there's judging, but we ain't judging. But I have a responsibility to say, you know that ain't right. You know you're supposed to be doing blah, blah, blah. Now, you ain't got to receive me.
That's right.
But my job and your job is to say it. Because once we say it, we're okay. Right. If we don't say nothing, he said, we just as guilty.
Bible said.
That's word. And so I don't want to be guilty of somebody else's shortcomings. But I also have to live this thing. So I can't just tell you about it, but I have to also be an example of it. Am I right about that? And so if you don't currently have like 3 to 4 godly mentors, then I would recommend that you seek some out right away. That you got 2 or 3 or 4 people that you can call up, have prayer with, talk about God, over the devotion, talk about the Sunday school. I said devotion because some people do the morning and afternoon and evening devotion. And so it's good. Sometimes, we share that stuff. We send it out. And you'd be surprised. Sometimes, even like this, my cousin said, she said, I really appreciate when you send that stuff out because it encourages me. And it seems like you always send it.
At the right time.
Yeah, Lord.
At the right time. See, you don't never know. You just doing, you spending time with God. You just flashing something out to people.
Yeah.
You're like, this encouraged me, so I want to encourage you with what I just was encouraged with. And it just happened to be at the right time.
Thank you, Lord.
And so you got to have them people right. Think of it this way. You should understand that you are basically a composite of the people that you spend the most time with. And so then it is vital that you choose those 4 or 5 people very well. Because if you choose to surround yourself with godly advisors, they will be instrumental in helping you discern God's plan for your life. But if you surround yourself with people who are far away from God, your hope of finding his best for your life will be greatly diminished. Proverbs 11:14 says, where there is no counsel, the people fall. But in the multitude of counsels, there is safety. And so what I'm saying, it lines up with the very word of God. The church is designed to help you greatly with this. I would encourage you to be in church every time the doors are open. Because the more you involve yourself with a community of believers, the greater your chances will be to finding godly men and women who can help you discern God's will for your life. The fifth key. Pay attention to how God has wired you. Pay attention to how God has wired you. God has created you to fulfill a specific role in this world. There's no one else who can achieve completely what God has purposely created you to do. In other words, somebody say, what's for you
All right.
is for you. And he gives to each one of us, because he said each one of us were uniquely and wonderfully made and designed for his purpose.
Thank you, Lord.
And so each one of us have a particular purpose
Have mercy.
in this life
Oh, yeah.
that God has placed us in to fulfill his will. The Apostle Peter gives us this admonishment. In 1 Peter 4:10, he said, as each one has received a gift, minister it one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God.
Have mercy.
As each one receive a gift, minister it one to another. God has gifted each and every one of us to perform a special mission for which we alone were created. How amazing is that? Sometimes it just makes you want to say, wow.
Have mercy.
Wow, Lord, really? Me, Lord?
Have mercy.
So when you seek to discover God's will for your life, pay attention to how he has gifted you. His plan for you will always be directly related to the gifts that he's bestowed upon you. The greatest news is that you will automatically be good at whatever it is that he has called you to do.
Thank you, Lord.
Somebody say you might have the Midas touch. Because if you're walking in his will, he's going to prosper that which you put in place. And that prospering might not be the level somebody else thinks it should be.
Have mercy.
But what God has for you,
Thank you.
I hear it all the time, is for you. And can't nobody else do nothing about it. So he said, any door that he opened, can't no man close. Any door that he closed, can't no man open.
Thank you.
And so we got to be mindful. And so that takes us to the sixth key, which is to listen to God's Spirit. I experienced a major turning point in my own prayer life when I learned simply just to shut up while I was praying. Now that may sound odd to you, and it seemed odd to me at first. But when he said it to me, then I shared it with y'all. And that's how we came about with the hour of power prayer. The time when it's not about talking to God, but it's more about listening to God.
Thank you.
So a lot of times we spend a lot of time doing this. And not enough time doing this.
All right.
And so when he first told me that, about 9, 10 years ago, remember that's when we established it, I was like, I said it was funny because when I talked about it around ministry, there was some ministers said they never heard God. And I was like, well, how did you come up with your word if you never heard from God? You got to spend time listening to him.
Thank you.
And I say, Lord, it's like, let me make it more personal. If I say, Lady C, what you want to do? And then I just start talking about, well, we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. We can do this. Y'all, you see where I'm going with that? I never took time for her to respond.
That's right.
Because I asked her a question. And then I start throwing stuff at her.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, lady, see what you want to do, and then sitting back and listening to what she would like to do. Well, that's what we do with God. Sometimes we just go, Lord, I need you to do this. Lord, can I do that? Lord, why is this happening? Lord, when is that going to happen? Instead of just saying, hear him out.
Oh, thank you.
And just listen.
Yeah.
And then in listening, he'll tell me why this is happening. In listening, he'll tell me why I should do that. In listening, I'll know why I need to be on that.
All right.
And so nobody else might not understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm doing it because I understand that that's his will for me.
Thank you.
And so I can't hinder you, but I can't let you hinder me.
Thank you, Lord.
I got to keep moving in the direction that he would have me to go because I'm listening to what he's saying to me. You see, I used to do all the talking when I prayed to God, but then several years ago I read Bill Himble's book, Too Busy Not to Pray. And that book completely changed the way I approach God through prayer. And since reading that book, I've had a significant component to my prayer life, listening and sharing with others the need to listen to the voice of God. I take time to listen to what God might have to say to me. practically the way I go about this is to ask God to follow when I spend time in prayer.
Yes.
I ask God, what is the next step in my career? Lord, what is the next step in my ministry? What is the next step for my family? What is the next step for my marriage? What is the next step in my education? What is the next step in my finance? Yes, during my prayer, I meditate on questions such as the above. Often God will start flooding my heart with ideas and information regarding one or more of those questions. And sometimes I take time to just start making notes. So in my color notes, I got little puns, I got little responses that God has said to me, and I write them down as fast as I can. Sometimes He speaks to me, and sometimes I can be driving along because of my relation. I start speaking. I told my wife, I said, write this down. Yeah. Because I want to retain what He just gave me. But I'm driving, so I can't write it, so I ask my wife to do that. You follow what I'm saying? God will speak to you in the quietness of time. God will speak to you in the business of time. God will speak to you when there's noise all around you if you just have that kind of relationship with Him. What a glorious experience that is, to sense His Spirit on me, guiding me through His thoughts, through my thoughts and through my words. You see, through experiences like this, He has shown me many times with great clarity what His will is for my life. And I long. I don't know about nobody. I long for those experiences when He speaks to me like that. Those times are truly life-changing. In John 10:27, He says, my sheep hear my voice. Yes. And I know them, and they follow me. Did you hear what He said? My sheep does what? Hear His voice. Wow. And so in listening, it takes us to our seventh key. You got to listen to your heart. After all, don't He abide in our hearts? You see, in addition to listening to the Spirit, I also recommend listening to your heart. To understand my point here, consider the following passage. Psalms 37, 4 and 5. He said, delight yourself also in the Lord, and He shall give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord, trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. And so we often talk about He give you the desires of the heart, but here's the scripture that actually says He will give you the desire of the heart. But not only give you the desire of the heart, but He said if you trust Him, thank you, Lord, He will bring it to pass. Not in your time, but in His time. One thing I've learned, he every delay is not a denial. All right. And He might not be there when I want. Thank you, Lord. But He's always right on time. I love this passage because it shows me that when I'm walking with the Lord, He will actually let me do many really cool things that I actually love to do. When you're close to Him, He actually begins to shape your desires so that you desire the things that He has already called for you to do. And so then His plan actually becomes a super exciting adventure, if I may. I always have the most fun in life when I'm doing God's will. And that is because He shapes my wanter to want to do things for which He has actually created me to do. In other words, everything that I'm involved in, I believe that's what He has in my life. Sometimes my wife always tells me, she said, you got all these jobs that don't pay you nothing. And I said, but this is what God would have me to do, to change the world. And then when she walked beside me, it makes me have even more joy to know that I got a partner that's walking beside me, that's willing to come to the meetings. And sometimes she get vexed and she say, I don't know how you do it, because sometimes the way the people come. And I said, but see, that's why God got me where He got me, because you bring some semblance of order so that we can enhance the quality of life in the communities that we live in. God put us in place, because if we're not in place, who else is going to show up? He wants a godly person in place to change the fabric of our torn down community. The fabric of the community is torn down. Who better to build it up than the people of God? We're the ones that got to instill that we are the moral compass, if I may say. And so that brings us to our last point, and that is to take a look at your circumstances. Take a look at your circumstances. God often clearly demonstrates His plan for our lives by lining up circumstances in obvious ways. And He also shows us what His will is not for us to do in the same way. It is not his will for you to take the job that is not offered to you. If you're 5'6" tall and weigh 125 pounds, it's not likely that God has created you to play professional football. In other words, we got to know, I always tell people, whatever you do something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
All my life, I always try to get jobs that I know that I enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And I tell them that because you ever been around folk that work, some of y'all got to go through it right now. And people complain about the job the whole time. And see, I always had a crazy answer for them. If you don't like it, why are you still here? You see, you don't want to be someplace where you're going to be miserable.
That's right.
If you're doing what you enjoy doing, then you will enjoy going to work. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Lord.
And so, always try to tell people, from a young age, even all the way out, we try to tell them at a young age, look, start planning for what you want to do so that whatever job you go after, don't just go after a job to have a job.
Have mercy.
Go after a job that you're going to appreciate being a part of.
Thank you.
Because then you ain't going to mind getting up and going in.
That's right.
See, when you're miserable, like, oh my God, I don't even feel like going to work today. How many personal days I got? I got any sick days left? I got any authorized leaves available to me? Y'all know what folk do. How can I extend my weekend? And the holiday on Monday, so I'm gonna call out on Friday. But when you enjoy what you do, you're gonna find your way there. And that's how it's works. When you enjoy ministry, you're gonna find yourself doing everything you can to apply it, and not only apply it, but to apply it to every aspect of your life. Over the years, I've discovered that God is pretty good at opening and closing doors. He even did that for Apostle Paul and his entourage in Acts. Take a look at this passage. In Acts 16, 6-10, he says, now when they had gone through Phrygia and the region of Galatia, they were forbidden by the Holy Spirit to preach the word in Asia. They were forbidden by the Spirit to preach the word in Asia. After they had come to Mysia, they tried to go to Bithynia, but the Spirit did not permit them. Again, closing doors. And so passing by Mysia, they came down to Troas, and a vision appeared to Paul in the night, and a man of Macedonia stood and pleaded with him, saying, come over to Macedonia and help us. Now, after he had seen the vision, immediately we sought to go to Macedonia, concluding that the Lord had called us to preach the gospel to them. You see how sometimes you might want to go one place, and the Spirit just won't let you go.
All right.
He redirection. It's like the GPS. GPS, trying to get you to go somewhere. You say, but I know another way. Every time you try to go the other way, what it does? Recalculate. Sometimes I tell my wife, it's like kind of crazy, It's like sometimes we go to certain places to take you down Broad Street, and to send you down Old York Road, to come back to Cheltenham, to come back. And I'll say, I ain't going that way. I'm like, if I just keep going down Broad Street out here in Cheltenham, why am I going to leave it, go right, come all the way back left?
Have mercy.
You see, God is saying sometimes I need you to go that way. Because there might be something on that road that I got for you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes he stops us in our tracks from doing or saying something that we like to say.
Have mercy.
And he'll send us where he wants us to go, and he'll have us to say what he would have us to say.
Thank you, Lord.
And so, see, even Paul had to face closed doors in his ministry. And God often uses closed doors to show us clearly what he does not want us to do. And he also uses open doors as time to show us what he does want us to do. But of course, this does not mean that every open door is definitely God's plan. But it does help us to give you some basic direction. And so the next time you began to ponder God's plan for your life, I would encourage you to mull over the above 8 keys and use these principles to help you to hone in on God's plan for your life. And when you seek his will earnestly, you will find it. I don't know about you, but I'm going to seek his will for my life because he's been good to me. I'm going to seek his will because he had mercy on me. I'm going to seek his will for my life because I want to be pleasing to him. Y'all don't hear what I'm saying, but when I think about his goodness and all that he's done for me, my soul cry hallelujah. Lord, use me to your glory. Lord, if nobody else go, Lord, send me.
Thank you.
Because one day,
Have mercy.
when this dusty life is over,
Yeah.
we're going to have to account
Thank you, Lord.
for our life. And I don't know about you, but I want to be found in his will. When that same Jesus who died was buried and raised again.
Thank you.
When he come back for his people.
Have mercy.
A people that he said has been prepared for him, adorned for him, a people without a spot nor a wrinkle. I don't know about y'all, but I want to be in that number that no man can know.
Thank you, Lord.
And so the only way I could do that, is to know the will of God
Thank you, Lord.
for my life.
Thank you.
Get to know the will of God for your life. Digest that word. Ask God to open it up that you might see it clearly. That you might live it in such a way that somebody else will say,
Yeah.
I want what you got.
Thank you.
And you can say to them, it's free.
Thank you.
Jesus has already paid for it. I don't know about y'all, but that's good news. That's good news. Amen.
Amen.
As everybody stand upon your feet. Amen. Doors swing on the hinges.